Let's turn to business now. Nona Peltier is in the studio. Nona, economic growth, well, it's picking up, but it's still weaker than the Reserve Bank was hoping for. So what are the numbers looking like?
Interesting. The market was expecting a much softer number than it ended up with. So the GDP numbers that we got today for the fourth quarter, that's the 3 months ending December, certainly surprised on the upside. Still weren't as strong as the Reserve Bank was expecting, which means that interest rates are unlikely to be moved by this. Yeah. But we are talking about these numbers are an increase in the quarter of 0.6%. Now that compares with a 0.3% expectation at the low end of the range that the market was expecting. The Reserve Bank was looking more at 0.8. That's what they're planning on for their monetary policy. So 0.6 is stronger than the market, less than what the Reserve Bank was expecting. Nevertheless, though, that certainly moved our dollar on a day when the U.S. dollar was in some trouble, and that was partly because the U.S. Federal Reserve said they're not going to raise rates anymore this year. And some of the people in the market are concerned that maybe this means that they'll actually lower rates again. And it's the speed at which the U.S. Federal Reserve has changed its mind on interest rates that's unsettled the market. That saw the Dow fall a little bit, and also the S&P with the NASDAQ somewhat flat. Now, interestingly, normally when a U.S. Federal Reserve or a central bank says we're not going to raise interest rates, that usually helps the market, but not this time. Asia is looking a little bit hotter than the U.S. market, and certainly our market finished in, actually it finished up in the black, which was pretty good, on a day when really there was a lot of volatility. Our NZX Top 50 index rose 12 points, which is pretty good when you think how much the U.S. markets suffered as a result. And our Kiwi rose to a 7-week high at 69.1 US cents. So against the Australian, we were at 96.7 and 52.3 pence against the pound. Interestingly,
How many against pence was it? Sorry,
52.3 pence, yeah. Now, interestingly, the people who look at money markets have raised the top end of where the New Zealand dollar might go. And so we could see some more upside from here and a lot less downside. And that's, again, because of what's happened with the U.S. Federal Reserve. Mostly everything that happens in our currency market is often affected by the big dollar. The U.S. dollar is the one that really sways things. So, yeah, interesting day on the markets.
In other news, so Refining New Zealand is looking to generate hydrogen from solar power. And what is the plan here?
Yeah, now, interesting. I didn't know this, but the Refining New Zealand, which is the Marsden Point oil refinery producer, is also the biggest producer of pure hydrogen in New Zealand, and I had no idea. But anyway, they are part of this plan that the government launched in Taranaki last week, talking about creating hydrogen as a fuel for vehicles, say diesel and whatnot. They can't use electricity to power a diesel vehicle. You have to have some other kind of alternative renewable fuel. Hydrogen is the one that is moving ahead globally. And New Zealand, Refining New Zealand are in on the game. They're saying, yep, we've got hydrogen, we can get in on this. And it's good because we can offer our staff a career path into the future, and it's in line with what the government's hoping to do with carbon neutral by 2050. So yeah, they're going to be exploring that. Quite interesting. And they said they're not a sunset industry, they're one in transition. So there you go.
Looking on the bright side of life. So you gave us the dollar.
I gave you the dollar. Yeah. Now the index rose 12 points to 9,448. We're still off we came down a little bit yesterday, but otherwise, the markets are looking pretty good considering a lot of volatility out there, especially with Brexit and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll have more on Brexit a little later. Thanks, Nona.